Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. This is the last day for these special all-viewer question episodes, as tomorrow I'll be back from vacation and I can catch up on what I'm sure are the numerous Hollywood headlines I've missed. How dare the news cycle continue without me? But it did, alas. So thank you for your patience, and as I said, I will catch up on any news stories tomorrow. But today, the three final viewer questions that I selected for this special run. All right, so the first is from Brienne Salmond. And Brienne says, "Hi Grace, I have a question for you." Great! Back in the quote-unquote golden days of Hollywood, there were a number of very talented actors with great range, like Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable, and Cary Grant. Today our stars are getting older and older, and nobody is stepping up to replace them. Where is the next Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, George Clooney, or Brad Pitt? Do you think that there is a lack of serious male talent in Hollywood today? And if you do, what do you attribute it to? Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit. I recorded all of these viewer question episodes in a row. So Brienne says, "Thanks for all the hard work you put into Good Morning Movie News." Smiley face. Thank you, Brienne. Thank you for your question. Great question, and I have a very strong opinion on it, which is why I picked it. Now, first, I have to say, you said that Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable, and Cary Grant had a lot of range. But I would actually counter that they did not have a lot of range. They had very strongly established on-screen personas, which I think is very crucial for a movie star. Movie stars don't deviate from what works for them. They are a reliable, something that audiences can rely on for entertainment, a certain persona, and they stay the same for a reason. Which I think, and those stars, while they had a great range, I guess you could say, of the kind of films they made, within those films, they always were Jimmy Stewart, they always were Clark Gable, and they always were Cary Grant. Now, interestingly, let's apply that rule to the people you mentioned, current movie stars. Tom Hanks, Denzel Washington, George Clooney, and Brad Pitt. I think all of those actors started out with also their own very strong movie star personas they didn't deviate from. But as their careers went on and they became more powerful, they were allowed to deviate from that. And I'll discuss in a moment why they deviated, whereas the first group didn't. But these actors decided to experiment, as many actors eventually want to do. And it hurt them. Every actor on that list, Hanks, Washington, Clooney, and Pitt, has had lulls in their box office when they lost a little bit of audience trust because of creative decisions they've made. And sometimes, and other actors' personal life choices, but not with the group that we're talking about here. But so that's where they tinkered with their movie star personas and they paid the box office price. Now, the reason those actors were able to make those mistakes, and Stewart, Gable, and Grant didn't, is because of the studio system. Now, when those first group of actors were working in the golden age, that was when the studios ran the show. They totally had control over everything, and they put together pictures. Actors were signed not with agents, but with studios. They became, always worked with MGM, or they always worked with Paramount. They were a star for that studio, and the studios worked them very hard, and there was really this was before there were unions, and, the Screen Actors Guild and such, and of course you hear tragic stories like what happened to Judy Garland, but also the positive side of it was that these studios were very aggressively making sure actors continued to work, and they were very protective of their images, often keeping actors from making mistakes that you see actors make today. Because as each studio had their stable of stars, they had very strong publicity departments, which not only dictated how that actor appeared on screen, that movie star persona, but they made sure that persona was backed up when they covered the private lives of those stars. And they also kept a lot of secrets out of the press. For instance, there's a lot of rumors today that Cary Grant was gay. He lived with Randolph Scott for years, just together, the two guys together. And they kept, Hollywood, the studio, played it off as they were just these two bachelors living it up together. But you see, today, if you were to look at those same pictures in the modern context, it seems like two guys living together as a couple. They have making breakfast, sitting at the table, swimming together. But Cary Grant obviously didn't feel comfortable, coming out to say that. This is something actually going to be addressed in the third question of the day. Very touchy subject, but I'll get into why I wanted to address it today with the third question. But anyway, you can see the studio protecting Cary Grant's image there. Who knows how Cary Grant might have felt about it personally, whether he wanted that to be a secret, and we still don't know to this day for sure. I mean, he eventually had a child, married Diane Cannon, but he lived with Randolph Scott for quite a long time. They were very, very close. But anyway, the studio protected that image and made sure it was upheld. Now today, nobody does that for actors. Often agents will even encourage actors to change up their persona because, agents, you have to remember, if you ruin your career, the agent will just go find another actor. I mean, they'll feel bad that their cash cow is dead, but that's all you are to them. Whereas studios felt they had long-term investments in the actual actor. They invested a lot of money. Or what does an agent invest in an actor? An agent's only reaping. An agent doesn't, cultivate your image. You have stars today have to take that. That's why they get such big salaries. They have whole teams that they employ. Agents don't invest. Agents only take a percentage of the profit they've got of the salaries they've gotten for you. You are all gain. Whereas the studio said, I've put millions of dollars into Jimmy Stewart. I'm not letting, for instance, Jimmy Stewart was very conservative. They're like, I'm not letting that get out. I don't want it to rub anyone the wrong way. So I think that's one of the reasons you don't see as many movie stars is because actors are these days more concerned with being, artists than they are stars. And because of that, they don't have as maybe the kind of longevity or the iconic status that their predecessors reached. And the reason that is because there's no studio to protect them. All right, so that's the first question of the day and my answer. Now this ties into the second question, which comes from Misty Tilson. And Misty Tilson says, hi, Grace, smiley face. I love the smiley faces. I love that some of you add so many smiley faces now. I think that's great. But Misty says, love your channel and your general opinion on movies and the team behind them. Thank you, Misty. I really appreciate that. And Misty says, my question is, what do you think of Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor? And this is where this ties into the first question. Misty says his general acting style in his recent movies, Gatsby, Wolf of Wall Street. Did you enjoy them? And do you think he finally deserves an Oscar? Love your channel. Keep it up. Thank you, Misty. I hope you've been watching all these viewer question episodes and you see that I've answered your question today. And the reason I tied it in here is because of that first one. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is a movie star. I think he is one of the few movie stars working today. He is younger than the stars that Brienne mentioned, Hanks, Washington, Clooney, and Pitt. I believe, Leonardo DiCaprio, by the way, looks a lot younger than he is. I think he's about to turn 40. But he's done a fantastic job, not only turning his career around from his heartthrob days, he did not want to continue to be a heartthrob, but really making himself a movie star, both on and off screen. I think he just has that movie star glow about him. And I think that's for, one reason I think he really keeps himself, we know very little about Leonardo DiCaprio privately. He doesn't really open up. I think we all know that he has a weakness for models, which is actually something that's becoming more well known. They made jokes about that at the Golden Globes. I'm sure DiCaprio wants to nip that in the bud, because that is not good for his image, to trying to be like a wolf, not of Wall Street, but of the runway. He does have that reputation privately within the industry, and I don't think he wants that affecting his persona with the public. So I'm sure that he was very alarmed when Tina Fey made that joke, and it got a lot of laughs in the room because everybody knows that about him. But I think that aside, DiCaprio has done a great job of maintaining that movie star image. Which has worked wonderfully for him. Now, you might argue, well, what about Clooney? Clooney looks very much like a movie star. I think Clooney has modeled himself after Cary Grant, very much so, to almost to the point of single white female. But I think that Clooney really let his politics get in there, and I think that's where Clooney messed up. DiCaprio doesn't get involved in politics. He doesn't comment on anything. He's in the business of making movies and looking awesome. And I thought that he was great in Gatsby, and he used that same persona quite cleverly to play into the Gatsby persona. That's why when he toasts the glass with the fireworks, I just had to laugh when I first saw that in the trailer, and even when I eventually saw it in the movie, because it just was such a movie star move, and DiCaprio was able to pull it off. And he has a mystique about him that you want with a movie star. Who is he? You want to know more about him. And I think, as I said, Gatsby played off of that quite brilliantly. So I think that DiCaprio is an exception to that rule, and he's had the self-discipline to not show his hand, to cultivate the persona he needs to, that those other actors haven't. And I think with the exception of J. Edgar Hoover, even though DiCaprio wants that Oscar, he's not willing to, he doesn't want it enough to deviate from, these kind of roles, these movie star roles that have worked so well for him. So I don't think he's going to win an Oscar until he takes that risk. I think maybe I'll be proved wrong this year with Wolf of Wall Street, although I think it's Matthew McConaughey's, because Matthew McConaughey did take that risk. He took the risk that DiCaprio won't take. McConaughey risked his image and his stardom, which DiCaprio hasn't made that, even with J. Edgar. I think it seemed like he was, but at the same time he wasn't. It was still a very safe movie in the very capable hands of Clint Eastwood. Until DiCaprio is willing to strip away and become more raw as an actor and let both audiences and the industry in, he's not going to win an Oscar. I think that's what they like to see. But I don't think, I don't think right now DiCaprio needs an Oscar. I think he should be satisfied that everybody thinks he should have one in a way that is a win. And I think he's an audience favorite and he's a movie star, and that's something no one else has been able to do. People win Oscars every year. No one else has been able to duplicate DiCaprio's success as a movie star in today's current Hollywood landscape. So good for him. And I'm very impressed. Even though I don't always agree with some of the decisions he makes, I thought Shutter Island wasn't a great movie. Wolf of Wall Street, not a fan of. Aviator. Often when he teams up with Scorsese, I'm not happy with the results, although I did like The Departed. But I thought that was Matt Damon's movie. But still, he's really a very talented actor and businessman. And you need that quality to succeed, I think, as an actor these days, because no one else is going to do it for you like they did in the studio system. All right, so on to the third question. This is a very tricky question, and I almost didn't answer it because I was like, there's a minefield. But then I felt that this person deserved an answer. They wrote a very endearing, heartfelt question. They genuinely want to know the answer. It's about lesbian characters in film. Of course, Ellen Page just came out as gay recently, and I think that even though it's difficult, I just, everybody enjoys movies, and I think it's something that people are talking about, and so please cut me some slack here. I'm trying very hard to be honest and answer this on an even tone, and so I hope we can have an intelligent, sophisticated discussion about this. All right, so here it goes. And it's a long question, so bear with me. So H6H Felly says, "Hi Grace, I asked this question in one of your previous videos, but you didn't pick it. Frowny face. I want to try asking this question just one more time. I won't bother you again, I swear. Oh, you're killing me here, Ellie. I really, you're so, just so honest. I love it, okay?" But she said, Ellie says, "Because as a lesbian, I feel extremely underrepresented in the media, especially when it comes to movies. By the way, the Bechdel test created by a lesbian. That famous test about why a movie is good for women, with two female characters. They both have to have names, talk to each other in the movie about something besides men. that came from a lesbian, I believe, cartoonist, and then also Ellen DeGeneres. A very first woman, I believe, to host the Oscars twice, a lesbian. So even though lesbians might be underrepresented in the media, in movies and such, they are making great strides in breaking down barriers." So Ellie goes on to say, "I would just like to get your opinion on this matter. So here it goes. In one of your previous videos, you mentioned that a part of Frozen's fan base wants Elsa to be the first lesbian Disney princess." All right, excellent. Let me clarify on this because a lot of you are like, what? And so let me tell you where that came from. Elsa never acts gay in the movie, and I know a lot of you took offense saying, "Oh, I hate it when a female character doesn't have a love interest. People automatically think she must be gay." That annoys me too sometimes. I think that's a real problem, and I think it's not good. I think that it hurts straight women in trying to go out and break out of the mold. That's a whole different conversation. But the reason that Elsa has been considered, as adopted by the lesbian or LGBT community is because she has this song, Let It Go, and it talks about hiding who she really is. And that is something that the LGBT community can associate with. And it speaks very much so to what they go through in real life, literally hiding a part of themselves, which is so integral, obviously. And the same thing, the X-Men have also had this, where it's been used as, a metaphor for, the LGBT community. And why even recently, the X-Men have been used for different groups that have been, pushed down and discriminated against throughout their history. Civil rights they were considered a metaphor for when they came out, but now today, for instance, for a while the X-Men were based out of San Francisco for this reason. So anyway, so that's why that's where the Elsa as gay came from, because of that connection through the song and what she's going through. All right, so Ellie continues and says, "So I have a few questions in connection with this theme. Do you think that LGBT community movie characters will become more frequent in line with the growing acceptance of this community? Or do you think that Hollywood will be further behind than the mainstream America is when it comes to this issue? Is it already behind?" And then she continues to say, "Which medium, comics, TV, etc., and genre do you think will be the first to truly embrace the LGBT community? And which do you think will be the last to buckle to the pressure?" Interesting you say pressure. That's going to factor into a moment. And then she says, "Okay, or the most important question on this topic, what is your prediction as to how long it will take to get a canonical lesbian Disney princess?" That's a tough one, Allie. I think that's going to be a while because that's a sexual question. It deals with sexual orientation. And I just, when you're dealing with content aimed at children, although that's, these discussions are being had in the school, that's just a very tricky issue. So I'm not sure when that's going to happen. But we're starting to see this in movies, though. So let me discuss. Now, first of all, when you said pressure, the LGBT community, to their credit, is very good at being loyal to depictions of LGBT characters in media, and also very vocal about making sure they get there. They're an extremely well-organized group, very impressively so, and I wish that female audience members who want to see better female characters, and also people who want to see different races, black characters, Latino characters, I wish that these groups, that we were as well organized as the LGBT community, which gets results because of how well organized and effective they've become. Really a great precision machine which is able to get results. And we're seeing them begin to come to light. So while you're not going to get a Disney princess, I feel, anytime soon, although I think that Disney does respect this, how Elsa is viewed, and I think you probably will not see her get a love interest. I think Disney will play to that. Disney itself has a huge LGBT fan base, and I think they're also very sensitive to that issue. So I think that Elsa will remain in neutral, to answer your question on that, because it would be foolish for Disney to alienate that fan base, which has sprung up. And, as I said, very vocal, very loyal, and really drives a lot of purchase power to Frozen. But comics have been, I think, the medium to most embrace the LGBT community. There are a ton of characters that were introduced. Batwoman, for instance, it's a shame that her comic is no longer very good creatively, but that was a big thing. The Green Lantern and the Earth 2. Comics have really embraced this as a way to, try and bring in that audience. I don't know how effective it's been based on quality of those stories, as I just said, but comics, I think, are the forefront of trying to have gay characters. The Young Avengers title that Kieran Gillen had just written, they had a lot of characters. I think at the end of his run, it was established that everybody on the team had experimented sexually. I think that's a little too far in the other direction. I think everybody here, just like we talk about wanting a good mix of gender and race, I think we don't want just segregating any area. We want everybody to play together. But comics have done very well in this regard. Television has had a lot of stereotypical portrayals of the LGBT community, but I think they're getting better, particularly with Looking, for instance, on HBO. I think that's a very sophisticated show, which treats its characters as people first instead of gay characters, as what network television has made the mistake of doing. But then actually coming up, it's been announced in this new Independence Day. I don't know if this will actually come to fruition, but the filmmakers were saying they wanted to have a situation where they had a gay character who wasn't, again, the character's main goal wasn't to be gay, but who just happened to be gay and would be a hero, perhaps. I think that would be ideal in the movie. I think that'll be very groundbreaking if that actually happens, and it would be great. I think no character wants to be defined by their gender, by their race, or their sexual orientation. I think I think that's where the world is moving. Very excitingly so. And I think media is getting there. So that's my answer to your question, Ellie. I think that even though you might not see a lot of lesbian characters, I think that you should be really excited for a lot of great lesbian role models like Ellen DeGeneres, as I said. And I hope that you see Ellen Page coming out. Who knows how that will work? You're very fortunate, Ellie, to be part of a community that's very vocal and very effective. So you might want to get involved with that, and maybe you can help affect change proactively yourself as a part of that group. And also, I would say, as part of this discussion, I hope that the strides that are being made by the LGBT community might inspire some others, like the rest of us, to use those same tactics to maybe get some strides in areas that we feel are not getting the attention they deserve. So that, again, really tricky question, but Ellie, I thought your question was so heartfelt and honest, and you weren't a jerk about it, that you deserved an answer, and I hope that we have a great discussion. My hope is when I check, I'm probably coming back right now, that when I check the comment section here, that a beautiful, wonderful, thoughtful discussion has unfolded. So thank you for your question, everybody. Thank you, Brianne, Misty, and Ellie. And tomorrow, I'll see you guys tomorrow when I'll be back. And I'm excited. And write down also below what stories I've missed. You really want to get into that first episode when I'm back. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.